and welcome to the Kongversation Mini. I'm Hyle Russell.
I'm Chad McCanna. And Kongversation Minis are being injected, much like the crazy immunodeficient virus, onto all of humanity into your regularly scheduled Kongversation feed, because Hyle and I have some things to say.
I always knew Jenny McCarthy was trying to keep us safe from the alien conspirators.
I really think Tad O'Malley and Jenny McCarthy are like bosom buddies. It's like they are of one mind in this show. We're going to be talking about the XFiles. So
so sorry if you're here for Donkey Kong Universe discussion. Again, this is an Oops All Tangents episode.
Yes. We accidentally decided to talk about zero Donkey Kong information.
You're going to get your regular conversation later this week. Do not worry. This is just us indulging ourselves. You know, this is not essential, but if you enjoy hearing our pitter-patter, our back and forth, then just stay tuned, even if you know nothing about the XFiles.
And we apologize. We really had no say in this matter. The timetable has been set for years and years.
The timetable has been set, but we're going to start it in 2012 and just really kind of take our time and culminate it in this episode.
Right. You really want to wait until all your reconstructive surgery is done before you execute your timetable.
We don't trust the audience to understand that it's a period piece. The period being 4 years ago. It's far too confusing.
That's crazy, Hyle. I don't remember what the world was like in 2012. I wouldn't understand the show. We're getting ahead of ourselves, though. We talked about the first two episodes of X-Files. Hyle and I are extremely passionate about the X-Files, as you might be able to tell.
Well, I think that's going to have to come with a clarification now.
Right.
It's like when people had to say they were a Star Wars fan, but I'm a fan of the original unaltered trilogy.
Yeah. And we made the case last week that the creator of the X-Files, Chris Carter, was effectively... Last mini.
Yeah, I assume we made it last week. I have a feeling this is going to be something that's going to crop up in many of the future conversations.
Yeah, this is the gravitational force that we can't not talk about. But no, we discussed the notion that Chris Carter is the George Lucas of sci-fi television. He's a great premise guy, but you have to keep him way the hell away from script writing and stories.
Or Gene Roddenberry, I could even make the argument in that, like, eventually, Gene Roddenberry's vision was so restrictive towards what Star Trek could be that the next generation didn't get good until he died.
Okay, but in fairness, that took several decades to get to, whereas Chris Carter was generally, for the original series run, was the low mark.
Oh, okay, but but Gene Roddenberry only had 3 seasons of the original Star Trek, and then the animated series and a couple movies. But
and hey, those movies were about 50% masterpieces. So.
Just like the X-Files. Hey. This is definitely something. If you're familiar with geek culture at all, you will definitely find something that resonates with you in this episode, whether you know anything about the X-Files or not, because the same issues we're having with Chris Carter have cropped up time and again in almost every long-running franchise.
Right. So there were 4 episodes left in the season when last we minied, and I think that they're extremely varying in quality.
Okay, well... We were more positive about the second episode, the last episode we discussed briefly on the last mini.
The Founder's Mutation.
Founder's Mutation, right. So, after that, it was like, okay, we got some more spring in our step. And then it
felt like an X-File. It was a little ham-fisted. It felt like a latter-day X-File, but still watchable.
The ham-fisted monster, I'm sure that's in Chris Carter's notes for season 11. He's going to attack a Jewish burrow.
Yeah, he walks up to a rabbi and says, "You have what I need. Mayo and white bread."
You don't see many ham on rye sandwiches at certain
I should have gone rye. Damn it.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Anyway, Founder's Mutation, it was a serviceable episode. I really liked how they mixed the mythology, or not the mythology so much, but the character arc for Mulder and Scully into a Monster of the Week episode. It felt like I didn't know if that was going to be the standard operating procedure this season. It turns out it was, for better or for worse. But
well, I think it's a result of two things. One is that's really that's the style of storytelling in serialized TV these days. You know, you always have to. You can have a standalone story, but it always needs to advance some kind of through line, which was not the case when the X-Files was originally around.
The X-Files got the ball rolling for serialized storytelling in TV. Unfortunately, it ended just as TV on DVD started to become a thing, and then, of course, which gave way to Netflix and the whole idea of binge watching.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately that's where the mythology actually held together in the original run. That might be a controversial opinion, but I think most people, the issues they had with it were it wasn't consistent from week to week, because you would have you'd only have mythology episodes during sweeps, so you would get 3 or 4 times a year a mythology 2-parter, and people wouldn't be able to keep up with the plot. What happened? I don't remember back to February. What?
Right.
So
well, I would say, in fairness, if you remove all the Monster of the Week standalone episodes and just look at the mythology as maybe a 3-season long thing, I would say it's about 60% mythology stretched into 100%. You know, they only have about 2/3 content, and then it really starts to repeat itself and meander towards the end. But when viewed relative to whatever the hell it was in season 10, it makes perfect sense.
No, even the super soldier shit made sense in the context of, okay, the syndicate has been burned alive by the faceless rebels. The whole bees and black oil thing has been burned to the ground. So, and then they decided to rebuild the conspiracy without human collaborators. So the aliens were going to infiltrate the government disguised as humans, basically.
Right. And honestly, that super soldier angle seemed to work remarkably well, except they just had to stay out of Roswell, New Mexico. That was their one weakness at the end of the X-Files run in 2002.
Yeah. And actually, if you go back and watch season 8, and I don't know when the last time you've actually watched season 8. Season 8 is actually a very strong season of the X-Files.
I liked the pairing of Doggett and Scully. Doggett and Reyes less so.
But even when Mulder came back, it really, the mythology had some urgency to it, and it really felt like they had energy again. And then season 9, it completely collapsed with the injection of Reyes, and the injection of alien DNA in season 10. But
it's while we're talking about the idea of there being two different styles of show, let's discuss episode 103, Mulder and Scully Meet the Were-Monster. It's definitely not a mythology episode, but it speaks to where the characters would be now in a way that I didn't expect.
This is a Darin Morgan episode, and Darin Morgan is the brother of Glenn Morgan, who is one of the writers and eventually executive producers of both this show and season 2 of Millennium. Right. And while I normally decry nepotism in Hollywood, I have to give it a pass here, because Darin Morgan is actually... I've never really discussed this with you, but he's actually, I consider him one of my writing muses or idols. He is utterly fantastic. Every script, to quote a line from Rick McCallum of Lucasfilm fame, is so dense. He's got so much going on.
Much going on in every scene.
No, but it's true. He has so many ideas. But the thing is, he makes them work.
That's the thing, because Chris Carter also has a lot of ideas.
He has a lot of ideas. But unfortunately...
We'll talk about all of Chris Carter's brilliant ideas when we discuss episode 5 of season 10.
Darin Morgan is brilliant. Unfortunately, and I don't think this is crossing line, because this is common knowledge. He suffered from depression. He has a lot of self-esteem issues as a writer, and that's really kept him back from having a huge career in Hollywood.
Have you listened to Kumail Nanjiani, who was in this
episode?
Yeah, he does an X-Files podcast called the X-Files Files. I've enjoyed it a great deal. He actually interviewed Darin Morgan about writing Jose Chung's From Outer Space, and it was a fantastic episode, and he discussed a lot of the things you mentioned.
And he eventually, I think he only wrote tail end of season 2 through season 3 of the X-Files. He appeared in season 4 as that shapeshifter. He appeared as an actor in the show as a shapeshifter who, it was a little rapey, kind of unfortunate now, but he raped women by disguising himself as like the object of their desire.
Wait. Was he was he Small Potatoes?
Yeah, he was the guy in
Darin Morgan?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, that's lovely in a really sick way, as you said. That's right, 'cause wasn't that the one where what's her name? Thought Luke Skywalker was her
the mail lady from Salute Your Shorts.
The mail lady from Salute Your Shorts. The voice of Chucky on
the
Rugrats.
voice of Chucky, yes.
Yeah, she thought that Luke Skywalker was her boyfriend, and it was apparently just Darin Morgan shapeshifting.
Yeah. I believe Small Potatoes was that written by Vince Gilligan?
It may have been, because Vince Gilligan wrote my favorite episode of the show, which was also a comedy episode, Bad Blood, and it was around that same time.
Yeah, looking it up, Vince Gilligan wrote Small Potatoes, and he wrote the part with Darin Morgan in mind.
That's brilliant. But Darin Morgan's episodes, they always have kind of an existentialism and a melancholy to them.
Very sad, because you can see, like, it comes from his head. He's a guy who suffers from these issues, so he often writes this underlying sadness into these episodes. But yeah, Darin Morgan was pretty much done writing episodes by season 4. He did come back for season 2 of Millennium during the X-Files 5th season. He wrote 2 fantastic episodes of Millennium.
And another Jose Chung's, right?
Jose Chung's Doomsday Defense. And somehow Satan got behind me about 4 demons meeting up in a donut shop, like comparing notes about how they've like damned humanity. And again, it's a really like you eventually sympathize with the demons because of how wretchedly lonely they are.
It's like My Dinner with Andre with devils.
Yeah, it terrific stuff. And then after that, he was basically done. He came back there was a Kojak the Night Stalker revival in the mid-2000s, and Kojak was one of the inspirations for the X-Files. Darin Morgan, who played Kojak, and also the dad in A Christmas Story, he appeared in the X-Files as the in the flashback episode to the 1950s.
You said Darin Morgan, who played Kojak.
Oh, I'm sorry, Darren McGavin. Too many Darrens. Too many Darrens.
Too many Darrens.
Just like Bewitched. But yeah, he appeared in the X-Files as the guy who first opened the X-Files, kind of a meta thing. But yeah, Darin Morgan wrote a script for the Night Stalker revival, which was helmed by Frank Spotnitz of the X-Files, something he did after the X-Files. Unfortunately, the show was canceled before his script went into production. So this script was actually written for the Night Stalker. Darin Morgan then retrofitted it for Mulder and Scully and where they are in their point in their lives in season 10 of the X-Files.
And I think that in doing that, so this episode it's immediately absurd.
Yes.
None of it makes sense. Like you're if you watch this not really understanding that X-Files has comedy episodes, you may think that this is just a pile of shit. But because it does, it's intentionally a pile of shit. I mean, there's none of it holds together on the surface. There's actually a sequence in which the weremonster played remarkably by Riz Darby.
Such great casting. Oh my god.
Oh god. Have you seen Flight of the Conchords, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay,
we watched it drunk together in Los Angeles. I know you don't remember much about that time period, but
oh yeah, didn't we talk about it maybe writing a spec at one point?
And I convinced you it was stupid because the show was already over.
They canceled it. Like, what do you want? Why would this be in your portfolio? No, but yeah, he was great on that show. But there's a sequence in here where he transforms into the weremonster, and it's done in stages that just crossfade. It looks like a Lon Chaney transformation.
The weremonster itself looks like the creature, the Gill Man, the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah.
So it has this intentionally kitschy charm to it.
Right.
And the what I thought was just it affected me in a way I didn't expect the one overt comedy episode to affect me. In that, basically, Mulders' crisis in this episode is that the episode is basically getting old sucks because all of the magic in the world slowly just fades away, and you become so pragmatic and realistic about the world that.
And not just that, but also that the premise of the X-Files doesn't really work in a modern era. At least not the way that it worked in the original series, and that's a problem that we had with the first 2 episodes. So it was like Darin Morgan was responding to like my chief criticisms with reviving the show.
Well, the thing about the X-Files is that it came at a time, the last gasp of the great unknown Americana. Kind of like what is off the beaten path. And in this day and age, it doesn't really work, but it definitely, you can watch those old X-Files and it still resonates if you were alive in the 90s. Or at least aware of the world in the 90s. But
you have it's a world where you didn't carry Google around with you in your pocket.
Exactly. And yeah, so there's a lot going on, a lot of ideas going on. It was trying to argue for the justification for the X-Files season 10 itself.
Right.
But it also kind of dealt with why would Mulder even be like, they didn't touch upon like the fact that everything he believed at the end of the X-Files season 9 has been rendered like moot. They didn't touch upon it, but you could read between the lines if you wanted to, and I appreciated that. It gave more character development to Mulder in this one episode than it did in the other 5.
Yeah.
So,
and I haven't read the Night Stalker script, but have you perused it?
It's. I mean, there are scenes lifted wholesale,
right? But the Mulder stuff seems to work. So I don't know that much about what he would have tried to say about Kolchak, but it works so well for Mulder's like quixotic pursuit.
Well, here's the thing about
truth.
Darin Morgan. He's not just going to reuse an old script and like lazily change the character names. He did go in, kind of dig up the roots and replan it, as an X-Files episode.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if it just happened to work that way, but it seems like it fits too perfectly.
But it's ironic that the one script that felt like it was written for the modern day and wasn't rooted in some sort of like Chris Carter's lived in a cave since 1999. The one script that was actually written at least a decade ago felt the most current and felt like it had the most to say about the world we live in.
Right. And it was just so remarkable how it was this. The whole thing is it's built. The whole like crime is built on misinterpretation. And kind of nonsense. There's one point where Mulder asks, like, I'm just trying to figure out the internal logic to all of this, and the weremonster Guy Mann tells. Which is his name, tells him, why would you think there's an internal logic? There's no external logic to any of this.
Yeah, it's delightfully silly, but the fact that it wears that lampshade with pride, it's fine. And a lot of people like who didn't know much about the X-Files did have an issue with this because they're not accustomed to these kind of episodes. And granted, it does seem a little weird in a 6-episode set. Like back in the day, this like you would get one of these episodes in a 24-episode season. So it'd be like, okay, yeah, we're just getting a little loose and crazy this week. But yeah, considering this is 1/6 of a
right,
of kind of a nice little set, a little box of chocolates,
mini series.
Yeah, X-Files Mini. Yeah, people had issues with it, but I think for the longtime fans, this was a fantastic episode, and I don't know if it justified this entire endeavor, this entire season 10.
Yeah, I don't know,
but
about that.
I'll be damned if if somebody argues with me that this episode doesn't have a right to exist, because this is definitely one of the best episodes they've done since at least season 6 in the X-Files.
If I were doing a curated rewatch of the X-Files in which I would watch the ones that I wanted to watch, I would ignore everything in season 10 except this episode.
Yeah, and my fundamental issue with season 10 is that they went back to work for the FBI when that makes no goddamn sense.
Yeah.
But
they should be working for Tad O'Malley, as we said last time.
Yes, but I can even overlook that for this episode, because even the fact that they're stuck in their old jobs exactly as they left it in 2002. That works to this episode's strength. So Darin Morgan tried to do everything he could to make this episode work, and I think he basically succeeded.
Right. And he even it was. I know we keep going on and we have other episodes to get to. It was just.
This is the last time we're to be positive this entire episode. Let's savor it.
Right. I remember just bits where Mulder is talking about looking at the XFiles with fresh eyes, and how metatextual that kind of was, because now here, a decade and a half later, I'm kind of looking at the series with fresh eyes and reevaluating it, and but it never feels meta in the way that, like, you obviously know Arrested Development is making a layered joke and part of it the characters aren't in on, but this, it never feels that way. It's just inherently hilarious.
Yeah.
Another moment that stands out, Mulder's like, I'm a middle-aged man, Scully, and it shows her reaction. He says, no, I am. And she makes this face of just, I wasn't going to argue with you, but continue.
But just the little absurdist touches, too, like Mulder pulling a bottle of booze out from his coat and just drinking it in the graveyard after the one had been broken or taken by Guy Man. I forget, actually. I need to rewatch it. But
or the fact that he sleeps in Speedos as he has before.
Yeah, which is a nice reference to his infamous Speedo scene in, I think, season 2.
Yeah.
Oh, and Scully had a nice little line, too, about being immortal, which is something that the original run hinted was going to be the ultimate result. It was a Darin Morgan episode where Clyde Bruckman, who could foresee people's deaths, told her she would never die. And then, of course...
You don't.
And then, of course, in season 6, I believe, there was that episode where she was there's that guy trying to photograph death so he could die.
And he takes her place.
Yes.
Yeah.
So... I don't know. It was nice to see that little continuity, even if it didn't come from the mind of Chris Carter, who doesn't understand the word, I believe.
I will say this: she hasn't died yet. Proof.
All right. So, anything else to say about Mulder and Scully meet the were-monster?
It was absolutely brilliant, virtually flawless, given the fact that it's an X-Files episode released in 2016.
I don't want to spoil the ultimate twist of the episode. The episode wasn't really working for me until the twist, and then it was just a work of genius. And so I would recommend checking it out while you can on Hulu or any other illicit means you have. Just because you need to stick with it. Wait until about the halfway mark where the twist reveals itself and you know what's actually happening. And, I don't know if it's going to affect you as much as it did Chad and I, being longtime X-Files fans, but I think it's definitely a good, solid 44 minutes of TV.
The cherry on top was the little skip at the end.
Yes.
That was it's like, yep, this is what I needed to, and Mulder's smile, this is what I needed to see right now.
And that's the series I love right there. The fact that one week it could be a melancholy, dark comedy about
but it was
life.
Uplifting. That was the difference between this and every other Darin Morgan episode. Like the end of Jose Chung's, the monologue is about solitude and fruitless pursuits. This was about how those things have inherent value in and of themselves.
Yeah, this episode is actually an argument for, like, the argument I make concerning DK Vine itself. It's that you sometimes hang on to those childish things because they're going to actually keep you happy.
Yeah,
they're going to give you a reason to go on. Don't succumb to the adult bleak worldview that we're supposed to grow into.
This is a refutation of the Bible.
That's why I threw it in the trash, Chad.
On Facebook.
Yeah, Gidgen's Bible went in the trash.
You were hemorrhaging followers that week.
I know. We lost like 4. Back then, that was hemorrhaging followers for us.
Yeah. These days I think we fluctuate like 20 every day in either direction. I've looked at those stats, my friend. All right, let's talk about the next one.
All right. The next one was
Home Again.
Home Again. I was like, what's it called? Trash Man or
the Band-Aid Nose Man.
That
was the monster, by the way.
Band-Aid Nose Man. Right. You've got to have. It's not an X-Files season without Blank Man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
you need Fluke Man. You need Explodey Head Drive West Man.
Well, even the human enemies. There's a well manicured man.
Yes. Yeah. Russian Man. Walter Landau Man.
So this episode was
that's one of Jack Kirby's laziest superheroes.
So this episode was definitely an episode of the X-Files. It
was like a season 9 episode.
Season 7. It was season.
You think?
It was firmly season 9 was just a level of shit that I didn't think could be topped until we saw the last 2 episodes of season 10. This was one of those thoroughly mediocre season 7 episodes where you can tell David Duchovny's just trying to run out the clock until he leaves at the end of the season, and everybody's going through the motions, and it's just like, all right, here's a script we had. It's about a trash man.
Yeah, he's gonna kill some people. No, I don't say season 9 in that of course Duchovny wasn't there except for the finale. It's just in terms of quality, and I think what drags it down for me into the 9s is the fact that it was saddled with this kind of side plot about Scully's mother and their son William, which they attempted to cross it over into the monster of the week, but it was kind of hackneyed.
Okay.
If it was just the monster, I'd say season 6 or season 7, when the show was still on wobbly but steadfast legs.
Okay, here's where we may
wobbly but steadfast.
Here's where we might part ways a bit.
Okay.
I did appreciate that all of the Monster of the Week episodes had that thorough line of Mulder and Scully's lives, not related to the Tad O'Malley mythology, but more what's going on with them as people in their late 40s or whatever. Because that is that you couldn't have that disconnect in those old Monster of the Week episodes where, okay, Mulder and Scully, their lives, they're on the run, the people they work for may want to kill them, and now they're just going to go solve this weird monster case out in bumfuck Idaho.
Right.
You couldn't really have that in this day and age of storytelling on TV, the golden age or post-golden age of television. So I did appreciate that. I didn't think you needed to kill off Margaret Scully, who was actually one of the best supporting characters in the original run of the show.
Yeah, when Scully's dad died, she was solid.
She was there the entire run of the show, and I didn't think you needed. She had one line of weak dialogue as she lay on her deathbed, and I didn't think you needed to kill her. They brought back the original actress and everything, which I appreciated, but all the same, I did appreciate.
Also on her deathbed, by the way, it was method. But that's what happens when you wait 14 years to make a show.
Right. I did appreciate the effort they made making the Monster of the Weeks more vital to the viewing experience. Everybody cites, the Monster of the Week is my favorite, which I think is kind of a retroactive viewing of the show. Oh yeah,
people return. They enjoyed the Monster of the Week, but they kept watching for the mythology, and they like to whitewash that because of what happened to the mythology. But
right.
Let's all be honest.
And so I liked that. It felt like, especially since we only had 6 episodes to work with, if they really were going to spend 4 of those episodes on Monster of the Weeks, I'm glad that it wasn't just a complete case of segregation,
and that's at the beginning I was saying there were 2 reasons why I think they've mixed it. The other one, of course, is episode count.
Yes.
You need to catch up with these characters, but you also have to tell X-Files stories.
But you've also got to have something to say about what's happening to their lives in relation to the Monster of the Week, and I'm not really sure how Scully's mom is dying and she's never reconciled with her one brother. By the way, the one brother we actually never saw in the X-Files, so I'm glad they had a retcon for why he never showed up. Right. But I'm not sure how that relates to a man made of garbage is going around killing the elites who are trying to push out homeless people or whatever.
Yeah, and that was the problem that it was. So yeah, we should discuss what the monster is, because it's basically a.
They did this twice in the original X-Files.
3 times. They have done this twice in the original. They've done it thrice now.
Oh, okay, yeah. 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, a trash monster.
So goes the old song. This is a thing that comes out of a
tulpa,
a trash can, a car. What do you call them? A dump truck.
Yes.
A dump truck, and kills people by ripping off their arms and spines. very Mortal Kombat style. Which was actually
Gata from Battlestar Galactica got his limbs ripped off again.
We saw again. I forgot his leg. We saw Chief Tyrrell a few weeks ago as well.
That's right. Yeah, I'm disappointed we never saw Michael Hogan, or not Michael Hogan. Yeah, Michael Hogan.
Yeah, Michael Hogan. He showed up in Fargo season 2 recently, but he was like in a catatonic state the whole season.
Oh, I just would love him to come in. Like he would be a good like.
You think he wants the X-Files in his fracking resume?
I want that alien. I want the alien genes in my fracking DNA.
Oh. That's when he's confronted with the evidence of alien DNA.
He always sounds like he always sounds like he's been bitten by a pirate and he's in danger of transforming under the full moon.
I would have loved to see Mulder and Scully meet the were-pirate, and it's Michael Hogan.
Anyway, so basically
the trash man rips off people's arms that are involved in the relocation of homeless people.
Yes, and I did appreciate the level of gore. There was always this like surprising amount of violence and gore on the original X-Files. Like, I don't know, like a lot of viscera would be seen on the show, and I was always wondering how they got away with it in the 90s. Let alone today, but
especially on network television.
Yeah. This isn't like AMC. This isn't The Walking Dead. This is Fox. This is right. 8 p.m. This is like the pre-Watershed or whatever they call it over in the UK. But this was a nothing plot. This was bottom of the barrel, bottom of the dumpster even.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like the fact that there's this trash man killing, regardless of his origins, which are pretty absurd. It never connects with the plot of Scully's mother dying. The only connective tissue is that her mother's death reminds her of the son she gave up, and then she ponders about whether or not she threw away her son like garbage.
He wasn't a dumpster baby, though.
DB. Just to get a base.
Speaking of which, this episode took place in Philadelphia. I was kind of hoping they were talking about the trash man. I was kind of hoping this would be a covert tie-in with It's Always Sunny. Like, eventually they realized this is just a big plot by Frank Reynolds.
Trash man.
The trash man's also Frank's professional wrestling alias when they wrestled for the troops.
Oh, was that his name?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and also they got back and forth between DC and Philadelphia remarkably quickly.
Oh, that would be nothing compared to the finale where South Carolina and DC were just a hop, skipping and jumping away.
Or the one before that where Dallas and DC were just the geography in this show. Long gone are the days where Mulder and Scully would spend an entire act in the car together.
It's about a 2.5 hour flight from DC to Dallas, and I know because I did that flight to come visit you. Mm-hmm. So my big problem with this episode, besides the stupid plot that didn't resonate in the slightest, and part of that is because it was so ludicrous that the best X-Files episodes, if they aren't comedies, have that air of plausibility to them. Mm-hmm. And this one, you was just like eye-rollingly bad. You could just see, okay, but the fact
it was like, you kind of, none of it really kind of connects, because why is he getting out of a dump truck? Who's driving the dump truck?
Right.
That was never explained, was it? Who's driving this fucking dump truck?
They don't do trash service at 2 a.m.
Who's dropping off this guy, letting him murder people, and then keeping the dump truck parked there so that he can crawl back in the dump truck? None of it reads.
But the fact that the monster was, and they specifically refer to it as a tulpa, which is kind of a golem.
No. Conker's Pocket Tales fans, calm down. We're not talking about Siegfried.
Maybe the evil acorn was driving the dump truck, helping out his best friend.
Darn and blast! We've been found out.
But like, it's a thought form monster, and they've encountered this monster twice in the original X-Files. They did a traditional Jewish golem in, I think, season 3 or 4.
Kaddish.
Yes, and that was. It was like this golem was going around fighting neo-Nazis or something. And then they did Arcadia in season 6, mm-hmm. which was literally a trash monster coming out of the ground to kill people who were breaking these stupid codes and like bylines of this planned community.
Yeah, the homeowners association had this monster that would and so it was like part Stepford and part monster movie, and it was a great comedy episode, but also like a monster-y comedy. It was a hybrid of those two, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because Mulder and Scully had to pose to investigate this. They went undercover as a married couple. They called themselves Rob and Laura Petrie.
Petrie,
like the
dish. Yeah.
Yes. It was really good for Mulder and Scully's relationship. Not in that it furthered it. It was just a really good look at them as characters.
Yeah.
And it also had kind of an interesting, absurd monster that worked.
It worked because the best X-Files episodes took that little piece of Americana and skewed it ever so slightly. Mm-hmm. Something that we can all either relate to or that we've been adjacent to in our lives. And
I never understood, like, what is the plight of the homeless in this episode?
It was never really explained, because they wanted to move them from one street to another.
Right. And on the other street, they described them as having places to live, even if it was in like an abandoned hospital or something.
Yeah.
They would, but they would be indoors.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why the Band-Aid nose man, this clay golem that some artist was creating, would want to kill the people that seem like they're helping the homeless. They're moving them, but helping them.
Yeah, and they could have at least had one line in there where Mulder's tried to claim that like the topo was impossible, and I was like, no, Mulder, you fought one in season 6. Like, just have a line in there that says, "Hey, Scully, it's like that time we posed as a married couple. Remember that?"
And she could say, "Mulder, don't remind me," and that's it.
Yeah, and the fact that there was that level of discontinuity bugged me, but okay.
But that's emblematic of every non-Darin Morgan episode in this season. They just, despite the fact that they've seen all these things many times before, they seem kind of annoyed at the idea that they might exist.
Well, and part of the problem is it was the lack of Frank Spotnitz, John Scheibin, and Vince Gilligan, who were really the driving creative force of the last half of the series. The best episodes were written by them, and with Chris Carter kind of being the showrunner and driving the overall mythology. So without them there to kind of fill in those gaps, they were just kind of stumbling around blind.
Right.
So speaking of stumbling around blind...
Oh, God. Do we need to dose on some magic mushrooms?
I've got some vitamin B3 here. It apparently does the trick. I don't know.
I've got half a caffeine pill, baby.
So long as
because a whole one's a little too extreme for a work night.
Chad, so long as you want to believe, you'll go on the trip.
Oh, yeah. I believe in facts that are greater than our human understanding.
So Babylon, written by Chris Carter, and that's important.
Yeah, I posed a thesis last mini that I would enjoy this season inversely proportional to Chris Carter's involvement, and I think that held true.
And he wrote half the episodes. Hooray!
Right. So this was just front to back. My mouth was hanging open.
I was texting you, okay, because I was watching them live because I still have TV for a limited amount of time here. You had to watch them online the next day on Hulu.
I'm one of those filthy millennial cable cutters.
I'm going to be one as soon as I get married. But
it's a better life, Hyle. Don't give Time Warner your money.
DirecTV right now.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know.
Is that Cabletown?
I can't afford it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was watching it live as it aired, and I we didn't talk at all, I think, episode 3 and 4, but I felt compelled to text you during this episode because I was in abject horror of what I was watching, and I felt like I was going mad, and I had to have some sort of connection to the outer world to realign my place in it.
Yeah, it was... And so I was like reading your texts and knowing that I was in for just a complete mess because I knew Chris Carter wrote it. I knew somehow the Lone Gunmen were in it.
I didn't know that. I knew what scene they were supposedly going to appear in this season just because in the kind of 22-minute like making of season 10 thing they filmed for YouTube and eventually the 7:30 slot on Fox. The Lone Gunmen actors were interviewed dressed as like rodeo cowboys. So I knew it. I figured at some point, like, Mulder was going to be in a rodeo and their ghosts were going to appear to him, or maybe they were going to appear and reveal they faked their deaths and they're working undercover at a rodeo. I don't know. My mind was awash with possibilities about how my favorite X-Files characters, the Lone Gunmen, would appear. It hurt so much when they died.
I thought it would be in the Darin Morgan episode, to be honest. But when it didn't happen, I knew that it wasn't going to be the big finale.
Darin Morgan never wrote for the Lone Gunmen.
Right. Well, yes, I know he didn't create those characters. He didn't include them. But I figured if they are still alive somehow, it's got to be in some kind of skewed reality comedy context.
Well, you got that, kind of.
Whew, man. So, speaking of tonal dissonance,
okay, so let's this episode. Oh my God, the cold open was one of the more offensive things I've ever seen on the X-Files.
It was offensive towards Muslims first and foremost.
Which, okay, we're bleeding hearts, I guess, in the sense that, like, yes, there is Islamic terrorism in the world. Okay,
yeah, but
fine.
There's also Christian terrorism. There's atheist terrorism. Like, there is terrorism of every stripe.
The thing is, the X-Files isn't 24. Like, I would expect to see it on 24. Fine, whatever. I would expect to see it on Homeland. Because those shows deal with those issues. Mm-hmm. The X-Files usually has something bigger to say about the human condition than just this religious group is currently bombing the shit out of people.
Yeah.
It's bad.
But the way that this was kind of introduced to us, because we don't know it's a terrorist at first.
We don't, and so we see this, and I think it was so wildly offensive the way they introduced it to us, because
he's saying a Muslim prayer.
He's praying on his rug,
praying to Mecca.
Yeah. And then he's going about his day. He makes a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Mm-hmm. He goes about his day, picks up his friend, and they're in Texas, and that's important.
Oh yes, and they also, it's offensive towards Texans, like, really badly as well.
Yeah.
He pulls up to a stoplight, and there's some good old boys right next to him, and they're like, "Hey, I think you're in the wrong country.
I don't even know what country we're in. Trump 2016, baby."
Yeah, he doesn't. The strange thing is, this actor doesn't clock as overtly Middle Eastern. He just has slightly darker skin than these good old boys. But
and that's why they had him praying on his rug to Mecca earlier,
because we, the audience, wouldn't have understood it.
So
we sympathize with him in this moment. We're like, oh God, that's really shitty. That's like really terrible racism. He's just a good Muslim guy, because we as modern audiences don't assume that Muslims are just terrorists.
Okay, because the majority of the population, if they see somebody being overtly racist to somebody, our sympathies are automatically going to be for the person being discriminated against.
Right.
That is the way any reasonable, rational person thinks.
Mm-hmm. So he parks with his friend in front of a museum. They get out, they walk in, and 10 seconds later, kaboom!
Hey, we're suicide bombers!
Right. So, yeah, I guess...
Fox presents the X-Files!
And then cue intro credits. So the takeaway in this moment is that the asshole racist redneck from Texas was right?
He was right,
like,
but you're thinking, okay, but there's nothing remotely paranormal about this opening either.
Well, there's that as well.
So
yeah.
You're thinking, wait, the X-Files, like, okay, did a demon possess them? Like,
right?
Was it spontaneous? Was it like really explosive, spontaneous human combustion?
That's the twist. They didn't find any explosive devices on their bodies.
It was just a wacky misunderstanding.
Yeah. ISIS is experimenting with the paranormal.
So yeah, like I was immediately put off. I was like, well, that was offensive. And
yeah,
yes, okay, but then it
reminded me in that sense of the pedophile priest that might be psychic from the I Want to Believe movie, also written by Chris Carter. There was nothing really paranormal at all, other than someone might be psychic.
And we also had to sympathize with a pedophile priest for the majority of the movie.
Yeah,
which nobody wants to do, just like nobody wants to sympathize with the suicide bomber. And yet this episode, and it wasn't just an aspect of the cold open, we were forced to sympathize with a suicide bomber for most of the 44 minutes.
Oh yeah, it was strange. It was like, despite the fact that he blew up a museum and killed a bunch of people.
No. He had a change of heart. At the last minute,
right.
he decided not to blow his suicide vest. Even though he was covered with explosives, and if his partner blew his suicide vest, his probably would have gone off too.
Yeah, okay. So he's a good guy.
He's a good guy with the suicide vest. That's who you want showing up.
Yeah. So, but Mulder and Miller, we'll get there. At this point, would not have known that, and yet they vehemently defend him against the again bizarrely racist Homeland Security personnel. It's everyone in this show. In this episode is an extremely offensive extrapolation of stereotype.
Yeah. So you have this hospital worker who tries to kill this guy in a coma, this failed suicide bomber. She tries to murder him, and then she goes on this rant about immigrants, and you could see Chris Carter at his keyboard just smiling devilishly oh, I'm being so relevant, look at me. What do you have to say about this, Chris Carter? Because you're not saying anything, you're just putting a bunch of broad stereotypes in your script, and there's nothing profound about it. It's just you being,
and there's nothing paranormal about it.
It's you being a clumsy hack.
So let's get to Mulder and Scully after the cold open, by the way, because we're introduced to two new characters with a line that pissed me off so much. In the pilot of the show...
Oh, no, yes.
In the pilot of the show, Mulder's office, he's like he runs the project, the XFiles, that everyone kind of looks down their nose at. They really want to forget that he exists, but he's a damn good criminal profiler, so they're not going to fire him. They shoved him away in the basement, and when Scully, who's sent down to debunk her work, first goes down there, she says, "Anyone down here?" This is their first meeting. Mulder says, "Nobody but the FBI's most unwanted."
Which is a terrible line, honestly.
Well, it's a great moment, though. It's hacky, yeah, but it's a nice little character thing. There's no reason that any human being would ever remember that was said to them, especially upon a first encounter of someone that you're sent to dismiss out of hand.
Yes.
And yet Scully has this strange fondness for the line, almost as if she's a member of the audience. And when someone comes down there, she repeats it with gusto. "Nobody here but the FBI is most unwanted," despite the fact, mind you, that literally 4 weeks ago, Skinner really, really wanted them there. You're not unwanted, Scully. You can't just use the line because it was used 20 years ago.
You could see Chris Carter just rubbing his nipples while writing that line.
Yeah, he's like the cable guys in South Park, just going at it. Oh, for fuck's sake.
So anyway, there's just been a suicide bombing on American soil, blowing up a Texas museum. Naturally, this would be the major news story. This would be dominating politics.
This is the London train bombings. This is a huge international news story.
Since this is taking place in 2016, it's a presidential year too, presidential election year. So naturally, it would be what all the candidates are talking about. And if you work for the FBI, you're probably going to be on this case somehow.
Right.
So here comes this character, Miller, or two characters, Miller and Einstein. Oh God, Chad, you just take it.
Okay, so they are effectively Mulder and Scully XBs. They are. It's the X-Files, the next generation. This is such a blatant attempt at a backdoor reboot. These characters are. They also have no real mechanism in the plot. There's no reason that they should be in any episodes, this or the next one. Which is it's a strange. That's the most stark thing, I think, is that in the original run of the X-Files, when you introduced a character that became a recurring character, there was a reason for them to be there. They need a boss. Skinner's their boss. You grow with him over time, and you question his loyalties. But he's a good character because he has a reason to exist. Agent Pendrell was the lab geek, but oftentimes they needed to run, because I was thinking other FBI personnel. Like, it wasn't just Mulder and Scully. We did meet people. Krychek started out as an FBI agent when Scully was abducted. Like, they all serve a function.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But these people just showed up out of nowhere asking, hey, did you hear about this terrorist attack?
Hey, did you hear about this terrorist attack? You work for the FBI. You don't live underground in a bunker. Did you hear about this terrorist attack that happened on American soil? Probably not.
Yeah. And they're like, oh yeah, I think I might have read that on my LexisNexis feed. Like, what?
What, Chris Carter, what the hell? Do you not know how the world works in 2016?
I would posit no.
Oh my God. Hey, oh yeah, I heard something about that. Yeah.
So they go, basically.
We just got done fighting a Band-Aid nose man. So obviously we're still closing up that case.
Yeah. Miller is Mulder, and he's convinced of the paranormal
for no reason whatsoever. No backstory.
No, he's not like an acolyte of the X-Files. He's not. They could have even had the opportunities. Like, what, man? While you were away, I just poured through those files. I think there really is something to some of them. No, he's just into paranormal shit.
And they had characters like this in the original run. They had that character who was just obsessed with it was a meta character. She was obsessed with the X-Files, but she worked for the FBI and she read all the X-Files, and they let her go on in like 2 cases with them. And then there was, I don't know, occasionally there were Mulder and Scully doppelgangers that were there as one-off joke characters, just, ha ha ha, and then moving on. They didn't try to make them real characters.
Yeah, this one though, the attempt to make them real was just so bizarre. So what they do is they decide, they hear the case is that this terrorist who had a change of heart, we have no way of knowing this, but somehow he survived having a suicide vest on his body, which I didn't think is something you can generally survive.
I didn't know you could survive having a Tomahawk missile blown at you, but apparently you can. So
yeah, man, cigarette smoking man's eyes sure regenerated well. Like, oh, no, look, he doesn't have a nose anymore. I'm sorry, but we saw his eyes burn away. Fuck you, Chris Carter. So anyway, so they go down to, they basically say, hey, we need some help communicating with this guy in a coma. I forget how the characters split up at this point, but Scully goes one way, Mulder goes another. Do you remember what the...
I just remember that Scully paired with Miller and Mulder paired with Einstein.
Yeah, it's like they couldn't wait 2 seconds to pair themselves up with the younger versions of their counterpart. Which
Miller was basically Mulder, except Mulder for like the CW. Like, he was basically just this good-looking guy who liked the paranormal, but had no character whatsoever. Einstein was just this shrill doctor who was not just dismissive, but outwardly cruel to our protagonist, who we've grown to love over the last 2 decades.
Yeah, and despite that, Mulder really wanted to pair up with her because he had a plan to communicate with the terrorist.
Yeah, so I don't know if Chris Carter watched the movie Altered States before writing this episode, I think
he may have been under an altered state when writing.
Well, speaking of taking mushrooms, the writing also reminded me of Aaron Sorkin, and just that he was trying to emulate the writing style of Aaron Sorkin, trying to be every line dripping with cleverness and verbosity, and the characters are so intelligent and they have such rapid fire dialogue, and
but it was all just verbal vomit though.
It was because as much as I shit on Aaron Sorkin, at least the guy knows how to write dialogue.
Right. It's like the conversations in the West Wing, they're too clever by half, but you're also talking about people who are the smartest people in the world.
The top of their field, yes.
They're the top of their field, and the dialogue advances conversations in a natural way.
Right.
Whereas this is just literally, there was an exchange I alluded to earlier where Miller tells Scully, I believe that there are paranormal things that are beyond our understanding. And Scully rejoins, I believe that you believe.
It's nonsense. It's nonsense purple prose turned into dialogue.
Yeah. It's basically he's trying to deconstruct every hacky catchphrase that the X-Files ever had and cram it into as many places in the script as he possibly can.
I'm surprised he didn't trot out Fight the Future or Believe the Lie or the various other ones they tried to use over the years.
Well, let's hope that this is the end.
So anyway, they all wind up in Texas, and Mulder's plan is to sit in the hospital room of this failed suicide bomber and trip balls on magic mushrooms to communicate with him on another plane so he can tell them where his terrorist cell, and they automatically assume there's a terrorist cell, that it wasn't just lone wolf terrorist. No, if there's terrorists, there's got to be a cell of them.
Oh yeah.
Because Chris Carter saw 24 at one time. And they're going to communicate with this failed terrorist on this ethereal plane of mushroom tripping so that they can find out where the terrorist cell is and stop a future attack in Texas, because one's coming.
Yeah. So if you heard what Hyle just said and it gave you pause, you're not alone. For a few reasons. One, as an X-Files fan, you may know that this is not the first time that Mulder has tangled with hallucinogenic mushrooms. The last time it happened, they were digesting him and Scully alive.
Field Trip,
season 6, brilliant episode. I've often hoped that they were still in that cave digesting, and that all of this is just a bad mushroom trip. But alas. So that's the first thing. You would think that he wouldn't just jump at the opportunity to trip balls on mushrooms. Number 2, that has never been a thing, the idea that you can communicate with people in comas by taking mushrooms. That's not a thing at all.
It's not.
The best X-Files are based in some kind of science, or even pseudoscience, and extrapolated from that, positing what if this thing was real. But taking mushrooms to talk to people in a coma, that's not a thing. That's not a thing, Chris Carter. That's not a thing, Fox Mulder. That's certainly not a thing, medical supervisor Agent Einstein.
If you're Agent Einstein, somebody who thinks Agent Mulder is a fucking hack, a fraud, on par with Chris Carter, showrunner, then you're going to immediately report him to your supervisors that, we have this FBI agent who's going to go sit with this terrorist and trip mushrooms in a public setting. No!
Yeah, this is a class 1 narcotic that he is trying to coerce you into giving him. He has been on he was accused of murder 10 years ago, or whatever it was, 14 years ago. He's been on a leave of absence from the FBI, and now he wants to trip balls. You think she might have reported this?
The Secret Service has better protocols than this, and they're the guys who hire prostitutes.
Right, in Colombia. Okay, so she does give him mushrooms, or does she?
She gives him a pill, and Mulder takes it, and immediately
because I guess she saw fit to grind them up and put them in pill form.
I'm going to be open with the audience. I've never taken hallucinogenic mushrooms. I've wanted to, but I've never had the opportunity. So I assume, though, that unless Mulder is a teetotaler when it comes to mushrooms, it doesn't kick in immediately.
Well, let's leave my history ambiguous, but
I wasn't implying. I was just saying maybe you know a guy.
I would venture a guess that there is an onset period, and you generally don't black out. And Mulder, however, went through a magical mystery tour throughout Dallas, Texas.
Except that the movie Magical Mystery Tour made a lot more sense than what we see here.
Yeah. Even the bit where John Lennon is getting heaps and heaps of spaghetti. I would have preferred that to the boot scootin' boogie. Oh, no. This was Achy Breaky Heart.
Achy Breaky Heart, and then...
Oh, God, it wasn't even a shitty country music song. It was an abysmal country music song.
It was Achy Breaky Heart, and then it was Honky Tonk Badonkadonk, which, by the way, references Donkey Kong. They didn't air the lyric that had Donkey Kong referenced, but Donkey Kong is referenced in that song. So there you go, Kongversation stalwarts. There's your DK reference.
So Agent Einstein gives him these mushrooms, or are they? And because later on she claims they're a placebo, I guess. But Mulder, he immediately starts tripping. She turns her back. He wanders out of the hospital.
He wanders without anybody noticing. Like, even in the peripheral of your eye, you would see this guy stumbling out of the room of the suspected terrorist.
Oh, God. And they're using this, like, GoPro cam that they used, by the way, in the previous episode, like, close up on Scully's face. At NTTV, back in college, we used to call this the Raimi cam because Sam Raimi used it to great effect in the Evil Dead series.
Yeah.
But, yeah, this thing, it really doesn't feel X-Files-y. It's like it's not within the visual language of the show.
No.
But while Mulder's tripping, hey, maybe. But you can tell that they had this rig and they just wanted to use it again.
Yeah.
So they strap this camera rig to Mulder and he wanders through the hospital. Again, nobody thinks to stop this man who's just stumbling blindly out the door.
This hospital, which should be on lockdown, considering it's harboring a suspected suicide bomber that we believe is part of a larger cell that's going to be instigating terrorist attacks in Texas. No, we're just going to have this man who's clearly inebriated wandering around.
This would be, our friend from Elvis and Slick Monty, Mariola, she's a nurse now. She works at a hospital in Dallas. And whenever the Ebola stuff was happening, there was a case in Dallas. And she was saying that basically, I mean, they locked everything down.
Yeah.
I would imagine that this would be a situation like that. Obviously not via contagion, but just via security protocol. Like, there are analogous situations that we can look at and realize that there's no way Mulder would have ever walked out that door.
Right.
And then he walks down a highway. And
at this point, I'm texting you saying, "Oh, they're really stepping up the insanity."
Yeah. And again, no one pulled him over. No police decided to question, why are you obstructing traffic, sir? No, he makes his way down a Texas highway, which, mind you, are miles and miles long. It would have taken him a half an hour to get wherever this honky tonk was.
Because when you're high on mushrooms, you really want to get to the honky tonk.
You want to, and honky tonks are so plentiful in Dallas, Texas. You can't spit without hitting a honky tonk.
Even the TV show Dallas had a more realistic depiction.
Right. Oh, good Lord. So they get to the honky tonk. Mulder is an extraordinarily, well, at least in his mushroom trip, an extraordinarily adept Texas two-stepper.
Yes, they could have just been his perception of the trip. We don't really know. I don't know if he was really line dancing and whatnot.
But the thing to do would been to have cut out of Mulder's reality for a moment and just show him kind of writhing around on the floor. That
again, it reminds me of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They had this episode where they had a high school reunion and the gang decides they're going to dance.
Oh yeah,
and then it's this amazingly choreographed number and it looks fantastic. And then it cuts to reality and what it actually looks like. Right. Just them sweaty and overweight,
flailing.
Just
right. It's like that's the kind of. Obviously, this comedy scene, and this was like a good, 4 or 5 minute long thing. It just was unrelenting in its badness. First of all, it has no place being in an episode about terrorism.
No. The total whiplash here was just galling.
But let's assume you want to go for the comedy moment and you want to have an opportunity for the gunmen to be there, even though they're dead. You at least cut to reality at some point.
Yes.
If you're going for the comedy, don't just let Mulder be an extremely adept boot scooter and then cut to him. Whoa, what happened? I saw the Lone Gunmen. What? By the way, Skinner was there when Mulder woke up from his mushroom trip.
Yeah.
Skinner's based in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
So apparently an FBI agent making an ass of himself in a honky-tonk is grounds for the assistant director of the FBI to fly immediately from Washington, D.C. to Dallas to do nothing more than say, wow, that was pretty stupid, Mulder, and then he left.
Right. Like, that's something that can be taken care of with a telephone call. Like, hey, Mulder, you're fired.
Yeah, a text message.
You've embarrassed the Federal Bureau of Investigations.
Yeah.
Your ass is out of here. Sorry.
Right. Yeah, you could have communicated that by just taking away his email access.
Right.
Like, just tell the IT department that Agent Mulder is to be stricken from the record. That's all you do, Skinner.
The fact that the gunmen were there, and it was a blink and you'll miss a cameo. Like, I even realized the gunmen were there. I was waiting for the scene of them appearing, and then I was like, wait, did I see them?
Because it was with this really horrible fisheye lens.
Yes.
And it was like, I didn't even see buyers, like, because again, I was with you. I knew that they showed up in cowboys costumes, and hey, we're in a drug trip in a honky tonk. They're going to be here. But you could barely tell that was Frohickey. You could barely tell that was Langley.
And then Skinner was there on a drug trip too, which ruined it for me, because at the very least throw us the bone that, like, the gunman's ghost are using Mulder's altered state to visit him and have, like, a drunken night out with their buddy, you know? Like,
yeah, one last time to drain the little lizard.
I mean, but with Skinner there, then it's just clearly a hallucination, and it's not as fun. Like, keep it ambiguous. Come on.
None of it's fun.
So anyway, the drug trip changes at this point, and all of a sudden, Mulder is in this alien abduction scenario, even though he should have been in the chair he was in season 8, even though they
the one with the drill that goes in the back of your throat?
They of course, they never reference Mulder's abduction at all in these 6 episodes, despite the fact that alien abduction plays a key role in it.
Not only alien abduction, but alien DNA
yes.
and psychic abilities therein that Mulder has experienced both of personally.
Mulder should have alien DNA, but we're going to ignore it and his abduction in the latter part of the series because it doesn't fit the hacky plot we've contrived. So anyway, and then Agent Einstein's in this fantasy, and she's whipping him. And Chris Carter really loved the term woo-woo paranormal, and like to describe like paranormal beliefs.
Oh, I'm new to this. So what's this again?
Yeah. Agent Einstein mentioned woo-woo paranormal. Like that was her go-to phrase, and it was just one of those phrases that Chris Carter wrote that you can tell he thinks they're so cute, so clever that he's going to drop it in as much as he can. So she was whipping him in bondage gear, and she said, "Is this the kind of woo-woo paranormal you were looking for?" or something like that. And I was like, "Fuck you, Chris Carter."
Oh, I didn't
Fuck
even realize she had a line of dialogue. It was just all a blur of shit by the time it got to that scene. Because so he's on a boat and he's being whipped by her. But
no. At that point, she's gone. At that point, she's whipping him, and then the fantasy changes to him on a boat being whipped by the cigarette smoking man.
Okay,
and is one of 3 appearances, so money well spent. On William B. Davis.
William B. Davis is loving this. It's not his fault. He's a fine actor.
He's a fine actor, yeah. But yeah,
he's a great actor. He showed up in wasn't he on Caprica?
He appeared in the pilot of Caprica where he got like a Colombian necktie or something. I don't.
Right, man, those Capricorns, or whatever they were,
Caprican necktie. Excuse me.
Yes.
But, anyway, so
they were Geminons. Remember?
Yeah.
That's right. That's the whole thing, because those are the Italians of the 13 colonies.
Anyway, so cigarette smoking man is whipping him, and then he sees the suspected terrorist at the end of the canoe they're on or whatever, and being cradled by this woman who we haven't met yet, so we don't know the significance. Like, I'm straining my eyes, like, wait, who's this character? Should we know? Is that like Scully's mom? Is that some character from the original?
I thought it was Scully's mom. Yeah, it's this like, and she's obviously in like a Virgin Mary kind of, it's like a Madonna kind of pose,
which is unfortunate because she was Muslim,
right? and she's cradling the terrorist, and he whispers something to Mulder, and it comes back.
Yeah, and then Mulder wakes up in a hospital because he blacked out on magic mushrooms, which you've told me from a friend of a friend that cannot happen.
Or doesn't generally happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unless Mulder was like hit by a car in his drug trip, which then,
that might have happened now. Also, we have no way of knowing what he drank at the honky tonk.
That's right. The badonky dog. Maybe Frohickey like mixed some particularly like weird ectoplasm cocktail.
Yeah. If there was someone to slip him a Mickey, it'd be Frohickey.
Yeah. So anyway,
well, Mickey Frohickey.
I like how the Kongversation Mini is now longer than our last episode of the Kongversation.
It's okay. So this episode was terrible.
Absolutely. So
it was aggressively bad. It was like in your face. I have no understanding of what the X-Files should be bad.
Okay, well, you didn't even resolve the plot for the people, the good people at home.
Yeah.
So eventually the mother shows up in real life, who is cradling him in Mulder's fantasy, and says, "My son is not a terrorist," or whatever. And
yeah, I know that he would have had a change of heart at the last minute. Because I'm his mother. And
so they're able to communicate where the other terrorists are, and they bust the cell, and there's like 30 guys in this terrorist cell in Texas. And basically, it's basically like the wet dream of like the Ted Cruz campaign. It's basically like... Or the Donald Trump campaign. It's like, yeah, all these terrorists just got in America.
But the way they busted is that the thing that the terrorist whispered to Mulder was Babylon Hotel, but he did it in Arabic.
Oh, right. But Mulder doesn't speak Arabic.
Right. So he was saying like Babylon and then whatever hotel is, and they had one of the was it one of the racist Homeland Security guys who translated it, or was it like
it was his mother.
Miller? Oh, it was the mother. Okay, of course.
No, the racist Homeland Security guys were just a weird bait and switch. Like, they were red herring. They were like these guys who spoke Arabic, and they were
why'd
like...
they speak Arabic to each other? That was so weird.
It was
you're thinking like, oh shit, are these guys terrorists that are just trying to get access to him?
Right. They're posing as Homeland Security, but they're trying to free their co-terrorist. No.
And then nothing.
No, nothing. No, nothing.
Nothing. Just a bunch of ideas, a bunch of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
Anyway, so Mulder goes back to his house in Virginia and starts listening to the Lumineers, and he has Scully shows up, and they have this profound walk and talk where they talk about humans sure do have the capacity to hate, but maybe they have the capacity to love too.
Oh yeah, that was the thesis of this whole thing.
Oh, and then Mulder hears these horns, which like these trumpets that Mulder at the beginning of the episode explained. All these people are hearing these trumpets. Some people believe it signifies the end of the world.
These ear witnesses, another one of those lines that Chris Carter was very impressed with.
Just jizzing into a tissue as he wrote it.
Jizzing into those ears, yeah.
And then Mulder hears the trumpets, and it was like, wait, so is the world ending? What? But it's like taking us this great moment where Mulder has this moment of faith, and he crosses over and he connects with Scully, and love and hate and what is Chris Carter trying to say? But we don't know, because we're going to zoom out and show the whole world because it's profound in some way.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, I'm sure Neil deGrasse Tyson was tweeting up a storm because the entire world was illuminated. The entire globe was in daylight when they zoomed out. Like this is a step beyond Titanic having the wrong starscape.
At the very least, they could have shown Burt Reynolds' face in those lights.
We know that's what cities look like in the X-Files universe.
That's the face of God in the X-Files universe is Burt Reynolds, and
crazy random happenstance. So this was just Burt Reynolds makes it happen.
This was just a mosaic of shit. Like I don't know what the hell Chris Carter was trying to say with this episode. He had all these like not even half profound ideas. They were like maybe a quarter profound, maybe 10% profound.
That's charitable, but yeah.
And he decided, well, it kind of reminds me of like when Paul McCartney has a snippet of a bunch of different songs, so he's going to like stitch them together into this wacky medley, and it works because Paul McCartney is a great musician,
right?
But Chris Carter is a terrible screenwriter, and so it doesn't work for him.
Right. Darin Morgan does the Paul McCartney thing where he weaves it together into a beautiful tapestry.
He makes an Abbey Road medley.
Right. The end of Abbey Road is, in X-Files parlance, Mulder and Scully meet the weremonster.
You got Mean Mr. Mustard, you got Polythene Pam, but in the end, you got to carry that weight, and you learn something about love. But this one was...
This was the revolution number 9.
Yes, exactly.
This was a bunch of discordant noises and babies crying.
Yeah, Yoko Ono would have thought this was brilliant.
You just want it to end. It goes on for way too long, and it takes up far too much time out of an already overstuffed episode.
Yeah. So this was, I think, without a doubt, in my opinion, the worst episode of the X-Files I've ever seen. And I'm including all the shit from season 9.
Oh, the Burt Reynolds episode, the one where Ben Linus conjured the Brady Bunch into his
Sunshine
house.
Days, yeah.
Which was the penultimate episode of the series.
I think that my least favorite episode of the X-Files up until this point was the Victoria Jackson episode where...
Rain King?
Yeah, I hated that episode.
Oh, I liked Rain King.
It was just... But
it was a little dumb with the whole. I mean, that one really started to advance the Mulder and Scully romance.
Which I don't mind the Mulder and Scully romance because they be fucking. They gonna be fucking
eventually.
Yeah. If you were partnered with Gillian Anderson for 9 years, yeah. If you come on, but
Rain King wasn't. Come on, it got worse than that.
Oh yeah.
Are you reading? Are you letting Victoria Jackson's insane politics color your appreciation of that?
I in my X-Files rewatch, I remember aggressively hating that episode.
Okay.
But at the very least, it was like bombastically bad, whereas season 9 was just pathetically bad.
Yeah.
And
they had just given up.
This was bombastically bad, but it was bad in such a way that it dwarfs everything else they've ever done that's been terrible in this show. This was I can't believe this was written. And I can't believe it was approved by Fox. I can't believe it made air. I can't believe people got paid for this.
Yeah.
This was garbage. How is it that we never got a screenwriting career, and yet this made it to air? This offends me.
Oh, sour grapes.
No. It's not sour grapes. Everybody should be offended by this episode. This is...
Not the least of which Texans and Muslims.
I have never seen something this amateurish make it to air. But we're getting a little long in the tooth right now for our Kongversation Mini, so why don't we continue these final thoughts into next week, Chad?
Are you telling me that we have to end this Kongversation Mini on a frustrating cliffhanger that makes no sense?
Hey, we're X-Files fans.
This has been a File 2 production.
It's going on like Donkey Kong.